This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is sponsored by MagnaGrip, America's choice for clean air. Eliminate 100% of airborne toxins from within the station with MagnaGrip. Learn more at magnagrip.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Jason Coy, I'm the Fire Chief here in Laramie County Fire Authority and Senior Fire Advisor for Fire Rescue One. And I'll be your guest host today for this podcast as we interview a good friend of mine, Jeremy Kraft. Chief Kraft is the Lehi Fire Chief in Utah, recent IAFC Chief of the Year Award, and just all around one of the nicest guys and best chiefs that I've ever had the opportunity to be around. Zam will be back next week with another episode of Better Every Shift, and we're just honored to have you as a guest today. Chief, you're also the president of the Western Fire Chiefs Association, and you're a champion for cancer prevention. So before we dig into all that, welcome to Better Every Shift.
Thanks, Jason. I'm honored to be here, and I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you can make it. Known you for a few years, met you a number of years ago, and the first moment I met you, I thought, holy smokes, this guy's got it going on. And then to see you at FRI this fall, and to be literally riding the elevator with you and you saying, where are you headed? I said, I'm headed to the Fire Chief of the Year Award. And you go, well, do you know who won it? I'm like, no, I don't. And here, unbeknownst, I was standing next to the guy, the winner. So tell me a little bit about that experience.
It's actually really humbling. It's a huge honor, but one thing for me, it really caused me to look around and understand why I received that. And more importantly, not only why, but who were the people that I surrounded myself with that enabled me to get that. And because I want to be appreciative of those individuals. Because, I've said it a couple of times, but those awards don't happen in a vacuum. You have to have a team around you, from my city administration that supports me doing work outside the city, to the other brothers and sisters at the Utah State Chiefs, to my brothers and sisters at Western Fire Chiefs, all supporting me, and to the biggest one, my wife, who puts up with me missing some date nights and taking phone calls. Especially most of that award was centered around the work we did with the cancer initiative in Utah, and I spent a lot of time on that, and she was super understanding and supportive. So I hope she listens. So love you, babe. Thanks.
That's awesome. She's a wonderful woman. Got the chance to meet her over the years, and you're exactly right. Those awards represent the work of the team, but somebody's got to be the leader, and that's you, buddy. And the work that you've done has been incredible. Let's talk a little bit about the humble beginning. You just came back from Montana Fire Chiefs. I saw you were there recently. You grew up in Dillon, Montana. What drives a Dillon, Montana young man to become a fire chief down the road?
Well, growing up, my parents volunteered for the local ambulance. My dad was in search and rescue, and one day when I was 14 years old, my dad took me on a search and rescue medical call. Gentleman having a heart attack. And we went through that call, and we were doing a little debrief, and there was a nurse there. And my dad asked me, he said, hey, what do you think about all that? And I said, that was one of the coolest things I've ever done. I'm going to be in an emergency room like Alice. Her name was Alice Travert. And she turned to me and she's like, oh, if you love this, you just want to be a paramedic. And so there it was that day, 14 years old, standing in a meadow just outside of Dillon, Montana. And then I graduated high school and went to college for a few years. But Montana's paramedicine program wasn't really strong then. And I had grandparents that lived in Utah. So I moved there to become a paramedic. I still proudly wear the patch. And but in Utah, paramedicine and the fire service go hand in hand. So the fire service was bonus for me. And it all just took off from there. And, I've always been somebody who trying to make myself better and move to the next rank. And eventually I found myself sitting in the fire chief chair.
Yeah, it's interesting. What do you think the greatest challenge has been as you progressed up the ranks to become that fire chief?
Oh, the greatest challenge is just keeping up with the fire service, quite honestly. I think if you're stagnant, it leaves you behind. And, you know, I hear a lot of people talk about the different generations. I love them. They're the next generation of the fire service. But as a leader, in my opinion, I have as much responsibility to adapt to my people as they do to my leadership. And that's the challenge right there. Understanding and keeping up with the younger generation so they can take over our fire service.
Jeremy, I think that's an interesting perspective, especially since we hear, the fire service 250 years of unimpeded change, and how the fire service hates two things the way they are as today and change. But you have a similar philosophy that to me is that we are in a ever-changing environment, workforce-wise, membership-wise, community-wise, society-wise, financial reasons, all those things, right? So would you credit that diversity and ability to be flexible and adapt as to one of your success points?
I think so. I heard it from somebody when I was younger, right? That whole I have to adapt as much as they have to adapt. And it just made sense to me, especially once I had kids, right? Because as a parent, if you want to be successful as a parent, you have to adapt somewhat to your children and their different personalities. Why is it any different in the fire service? It's not. If you love them like you love your kids, that's another way you have to be successful, but you have to adapt to their needs as much as they have to adapt to your needs.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about cancer, something near and dear to your heart, and a little bit about the work that you did with the Utah legislation. Just share kind of the history of that, the journey that you took and the Utah Chiefs took, and how you spearheaded all those.
Yeah, so it's been about 3 years ago. Myself and a couple colleagues, Clint Smith and Brad, we decided to do something about the cancer narrative in Utah and to change it, because we've been having some colleagues pass away. And so we started down the road, honestly, with looking to bring in some blood tests, some type of blood test to test every firefighter in Utah. That was our goal. Long story short, we found a clinic in Arizona that was doing some cancer testing. We went down there. They tested 6 of us, and 5 of us ended up with cancer. I was one of them. They diagnosed me with renal cancer and prostate cancer, stage 4 prostate cancer, actually, which drove us even more. And we didn't know where to go. Quite honestly, we didn't have a roadmap. Nobody's ever done this. And I'm proud to say that we've started testing people about 3 weeks ago in our own cancer center for free, firefighters. We actually, our ribbon cutting or hose cutting is next week with the governor and all those people. But the end goal is to test every firefighter every 5 to 8 years of their career for free in Utah. And it's comprehensive. And I'm a recipient of the benefits of early testing. What we know about firefighter cancers is that the cancers we get don't become symptomatic until they're late to end stage, and then they're very difficult to cure. If we can catch them early, then we can cure them. They're much more, the rate of curability is much higher, and we preserve quality of life. And that's the goal. We've done a lot of homework and figured out the best way. I think as a fire service, we've done a lot of cleaning our own house, right? We don't sleep with our turnouts on anymore. It's not cool to have dirty turnouts anymore. All those dumb things we did back before we knew. But now it's time for the fire service to give back to these people and give them peace of mind and give families peace of mind. And that comes from early detection cancer testing. And that's what we've done here.
I think that's outstanding. Legislatively wise, funding that program, is there anything to worry about for sunsetting? How is that funded?
So legislator funded us for 3 years to test 500 firefighters per year. And then we're kind of on our own. We have some ideas. And really, most of the career department stepped up and said, hey, we got this. We'll cover our members. It's a little spendy. It's about $3,200 per person, but that's every 5 to 8 years. I'd like to push it closer to the 5-year mark. What I worry about is our volunteer organizations and our combination organizations who, if they have one single member pop in a year, they might have to make that decision. Do we put fuel in the apparatus or do we test our guy?
Right.
And so that's where the funding, and it's about a 50-50 split career to volunteer in Utah. So you're still talking about, $1.7 million a year. But we have some ideas. And we started this with not a penny, and we're where we're at now. What I like to say about this is I tell every single firefighter that comes in, the way to be successful in the fire service is to have a good work ethic, have a positive attitude, and look for every opportunity you can. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'm super positive we'll be successful at this, and we're going to set it up in perpetuity. So it's forever. And I hope other states pick it up.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think like the fire service in many things, present us with a challenge and we'll figure out a way to overcome it, right? So you got the first hurdle done with getting it recognized and getting testing. Now the next is going to be, how do we maintain that and fund it for the future? And I'm pretty confident that with you at the helm and your other state chiefs, you guys will get there. Pretty good stuff. Very good.
We're actually hoping, one of our big things is we're collecting data. And through data collection, I believe we can prove to the insurance companies that it's cheaper for them to test firefighters every 5 years and treat cancers early. It'll actually save them money than if they wait into the long run and catch it late. So ultimately, if the insurance companies pay for this every 5 years, that's beautiful.
Yeah, interesting. Wyoming passed a presumptive cancer law a couple of years ago, and the most recent addition was that cancer screening would be a work comp claim every year for firefighters as long as they've been in the fire service 10 years or longer, volunteer or paid. So essentially you fill out a work comp claim as a firefighter, and that allows you to get free screening. The next piece is how do we identify and define the screening, because we don't have a good grasp of that. But similar, early detection is the key for all of us, right?
I got a really good protocol for you. I'll send it over.
Perfect. I'll take it. Let's talk a little bit. Let's do a little bit back to Dylan. We share a common interest, and we've talked about this over the years, a little bit about rodeo. And seems to me you had a passion full of the Western lifestyle. And does any of those skills and those life lessons as you were on the rodeo grounds impact your fire ground and also just your development and growth as a fire chief?
For me, there's kind of an unspoken rule in the rodeo world that if you're going to be successful, the one thing that you have above all is a don't quit attitude. So I did some roping, but my passion was riding bucking horses, and you just don't quit. Even if it feels like you're going to get bucked off, you just don't quit. And working on the ranch every summer, same thing, right? You just didn't quit till you got the job done. And I've kind of brought that attitude to the fire service. You just don't quit until the job's done. No matter what roadblocks, if you're about to get bucked off, you just find a way to get it done. And so, I think it's a direct parallel, quite honestly. And I'm glad I did it. I still, haven't been on a bucking horse since 1992, but in my mind, I could still do it because I would never quit.
That's awesome. There's another thing that we've talked about with rodeo and national finals rodeo in Las Vegas, and just the family culture of rodeo too, right? And the values and the camaraderie and the support. If you watch the rodeo athletes, everything from how they interact with their peers, all those lessons, right?
I love it so much because you can take two of the biggest rivals in the bronc riding and the bull riding or whatever, you pick it, and they cheer for each other. They go down the road together. They share, spending gas money and travel stuff. And when one of them wins and one of them doesn't, they're still best friends. There's no animosity there. I just love that culture of, you can be great and I'm happy, and I can be great and you're happy, right? And we cheer each other on, which I think makes them better all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. If you watch rodeo, if you sign in and watch ESPN or the Western Channel, you catch a rodeo, watch the interview process of the athletes getting interviewed. That's another cool thing that I watched, and I think, God, our PIOs could learn from it, right? They thank the attendee, they thank the athlete, they thank the horse, they thank, they give praise to everybody, their teammates, and just the way they interact is pretty cool.
Yeah, most of them, the very last thing they would do is take credit for what happened.
Yeah.
Right? They drew a good horse, or they were lucky that night, or many of them are very religious and they thank God for the talents and the ability to be there. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Most of them are amazing athletes and they're super humble about it.
Yeah, and very wealthy if they're successful.
Yes, a lot more wealthy back than when I was rodeo.
and very broke if you're not successful. It's just the story of life, right?
Yep.
Pretty cool stuff, Jeremy. And that Western lifestyle, it engulfs you, and I can see it in you, and without even knowing your background in rodeo when I first met you, it all clicked when I found out that you were a bronc rider and a bucking horse guy, because you can just see it, how you lead your folks, and the toughness and the grit that you have, but also the compassion that you have for the fire service. Those are all, I think, really good traits to have. So thanks for that, my friend. I appreciate being around you when we talk about it. Let's do a little bit of what's going on with the Western Fire Chiefs Association. For those that don't know, the IAFC, the International Association of Fire Chiefs, has a number of divisions, and you're the president of the Western Fire Chiefs Association.
Yeah, I just took that over in July, and we are hopefully still moving full steam ahead. We like to lead and innovate, and one of the things I tell people is we're always trying to see what's coming and what's around the corner, and get in front of that with regards to wildfire and technology. I am going to stand up a health and wellness task force part of it, because I don't think we're doing a good enough job in the fire service of sharing best practice. So what I mean by that is, like, maybe in Utah we're doing it right for cancer, but it sounds to me like in Wyoming you guys are doing it better on the presumptive side. I know that Washington does a really good job of advocacy and support for their people, but there's no place you can go to find out all of that. And that's what I want to do, is put a task force together, find best practices, and then take it to regional summits that are really cheap and super obtainable for people. And let's just start sharing all this stuff with regards to mental health and physical fitness, and even the way we eat in the firehouses and all of that stuff, to just make us better. And I digressed a little bit, but that's my passion moving into Western Fire Chiefs. We actually have our own symposium now. It's called Ignite. It's in Vegas. And we're trying to do what we do at the Western, which is keep it a little bit intimate, but bring super relevant topics. And once again, look forward, look around the corner. What aren't people thinking about, and what aren't they seeing, so it doesn't take them by surprise, and they can be great leaders.
Yeah, I think those are all important. Last year was your first Ignite. Was that correct, in Las Vegas?
Yep.
Yeah, what a place to have a conference. And what was the decision-making process to move it? Because the Western really hadn't had a conference or a symposium before that, right?
Yeah, well, we decided to do Ignite because we kind of got a shaky economy. And if you follow the forecasters, it's going to get a little bit shakier, a little bit rough. Well, people can't afford to travel to Florida for FRI from the West, or even, right? The first thing they're going to do is cut travel and training budgets. And so we wanted something closer that was relevant, but still a little bit intimate. And Las Vegas just felt like the right place. I will say we're not on the Strip. We're out at the Red Rock Casino, so we're about 20 miles off the Strip. So we don't lose a whole bunch of people to gambling and all of that. And the other thing that we're really good at Western is we have social events every single night, because networking is huge to us, making friends, right? You can never know enough people, and you can never have enough friends, especially if you're in leadership. So we try to force some of that, and it works out really well.
That's outstanding. Awesome stuff. You know, we look at leadership, Chief, and over the years, leadership's had to evolve. Like you said, we have to change to meet our current environments. What's going on in your organization that's challenging you to see things differently or to adapt currently?
Well, I got a couple things. So I've been the fire chief for 11 years. And when I got here, we were a 2-station department with 35 full-time employees and around 35 full-time employees, about equal. We're now a 4-station, 85-member department, no part-time employees. So in 11 years, and our city has grown from a population of 55,000 to just under 95,000 in that amount of time. So we are incredibly young, and just trying to keep up with service in the community. Those are my 2 biggest challenges. In fact, I know you can't see it, but just to the left of me here on the whiteboard, I had to write a statement, and it says performance is more important than time on the job.
Yeah.
Because we were getting so hyper focused on how old we were, but we were losing the fact that we had great performers at a young age. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge, especially for my more tenured firefighters, right? They value time on the job more than anything, and trying to get that mindset shift. And the other thing is just maintaining quality of service. Paramedics are, they were hard to find. So we changed. We started training our own medics instead of just going out and find them. Now we bring people in, they prove themselves, we send them to paramedic school, which showed me a very valuable lesson that when you train people like that, you tend to get people who are more committed to your organization. So then we did it in the fire side of the house, but we're small enough, we couldn't have our own academy. So I built a training consortium with the 5 cities in the northern end of our county. We now do 2 academies a year. We send people, instead of hiring certifications, we hire the right people and we certify them, which gives us better commitment. Just some of the challenges that we're working on, keeping up with growth and trying to keep people here a little bit longer while some of them get some gray hair under them.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes in a snap. Visit magnagrip.com to download MagnaGrip's free grant guide with expert tips to solidify a grant for essential safety equipment, such as MagnaGrip's exhaust removal systems. That's magnagrip.com to download the free guide.
You know, it's funny, we similar journeys, and we're in the same boat, right? So experience, we don't have a lot of the 20-year seasoned folks. We have a lot of 3 and 5 year folks. And Bruno used to be, you know, he was so wise with everything, but he would say, don't put overabundance of value on 20 years of service, because that could be 20 years or 20 times 1 year of service. They saw the same calls for that same 20 years and they didn't change anything or do anything different. So my personal opinion is we need a mix of that, but we can't be hyper focused on just years of service, because it could just be that they had 20 times 1 year, their first year of experience.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, part of our challenge, and you're probably facing this too, is when promotions are coming up, like I don't necessarily have the people that are qualified. So I'm actually looking at changing some of my qualifications, digressing a little bit, but still holding the same performance values. Mm-hmm. Just the time on is not as important.
Right.
Let's see who you are and can you perform at 5 years on the job for a captain instead of 7 years on the job.
You know, I think about that, Chief, and we look at the private business sector, right? There's no rule if you're going to be the CEO of Amazon that you had to work 35 years for Amazon, right? So we as a fire service hold on to that really true, and in some part rightfully so, but we probably also have to just open our eyes and our ears to say there's a different way of looking at promotional processes, and how do we test performance and capability and capacity and all those other characteristics versus just, well, they served their time. It's like serving a jail sentence. Now I can promote.
Right.
Right.
Well, and Jason, honestly, when you say, let's just take company officer, for example, if your department says you can't test for company officer till 7 years, well, in some ways, you're holding your people back when they're younger. Why would they start trying at 3 and 4 years and really getting better at it? You know what I'm saying? If you open that door a little bit and you tell them it's about performance, what I've found with fire service personnel is if you open a door and give them an opportunity to prove themselves, they're going to do it, right? And I'm hoping we've just started this a little bit, so I'm hoping that we see the fruits of that.
You know, the cream rises to the top, as they say on a dairy farm, right? And if you give them a chance to show what they can do and empower them and grow, your organization wins, your team wins. The folks that are uncomfortable with that are the ones that maybe don't want that opportunity. They want it to be more stringent so that the table is weighted in their favor because they've been there longer.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. Perfect.
And I don't think businesses run that way. And I know the ranch doesn't run that way, right?
No, the
So
ranch doesn't.
if you're 25-year guy on the ranch and you're not pulling your weight, you probably aren't going to get promoted to ranch manager. You know,
No. I got put in charge of a hay crew on a ranch I used to go work for when I was a sophomore in high school. A 20-person hay crew. They put me in charge.
Yep.
And as I talk to them now, it's just because I was a worker.
Yep.
Right. I valued hard work, mostly because I knew I'd get my ass kicked if I didn't.
Right.
Yeah. They let me perform, and I tried my best to do it.
You know, when we become more performance based and less tenure based, it changes the game, and it's uncomfortable. I'm not sure that it's right for all organizations, but I think for organizations like yours and mine, where we're challenged with keeping people 10 years because there are other opportunities, right? They can go to the big city or they can go someplace else. And especially with the volume of lateral company officer positions today, I'd hate to lose a 4 or 5 year person that I could see being the fire chief someday because I made them wait to 7 years even to test when they were ready at 5.
Yeah, I love that. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, very cool. Let's talk a little bit about what's coming up in your future. I'm pretty certain you're going to Hawaii for the Hawaii Chiefs Conference, and we've had those conversations. But what else is going on in the future for you?
Well, I really look forward to going to the different. I'm going to Hawaii for their state chiefs, as I was just in Montana for their state chiefs. And I learned so much when I get to go rub shoulders with the leaders of these other states, right? In some regards, you learn new things, but in other regards, you learn that I'm not on an island, even though Hawaii is on an island, right? But we're all struggling with some of the same things. It's not an anomaly. Things are not that much different in Lehi, than they are in Laramie County or anywhere like that. Maybe there are some little differences, but it's just so refreshing to get out there, and it just pumps me up. So I love that. I got some more work to do on the cancer front. We have some bill files open for this legislative session already. We're going to try to build a cancer trust so we don't have to necessarily rely on workers' compensation. We want our people to start getting treated right away. So that's going to be a big lift for us legislatively. And, just trying to make sure that I find a really good work-life balance and I take care of my wife because, I'm still fighting cancer. I'm still hard into treatment, and she's there for me every day, and I need to be there for her. So as I talk about the future, it's interesting. Once you're diagnosed with cancer, the narrative flips. I used to talk a lot about how much quality time I had left at work, but now I start to talk about how much quality time I have left in life. So that puts retirement a little bit closer to me, maybe 3 or 5 years out. But I got to have a what's next because I'm not a very much of a sit still guy.
Talking to you and your wife, it's obvious that you guys have an incredible bond and support for each other. And I think if there is, besides the fire chiefing leadership piece, there's probably a spousal lesson that we can all learn from looking at you two also. And it shows, because your performance both on the job and off the job, you can see that foundation and your values and what you stand for as a person. So thank you for sharing those stories with us over the last years, because they move all of us to be better at that. With my wife in particular, I try to be better because of you guys.
Thanks,
so,
Jason.
yeah.
I like to tell everybody I outkicked my coverage with that girl. That's for sure.
Yeah, darn right. I think she's pretty proud of you too, though.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. As fire chiefs, we're getting closer to the end of our career than we are the beginning, which is hard for some of us, because like you, we were young when we became fire chiefs, and now we're all of a sudden becoming that old guy in the room. What would you tell, or what would your suggestion be to that young company officer or aspiring company officer that is just, you can tell that they got it, whatever it is, you can tell they got it? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that relationships matter. And the reason I say that, I've had not only cancer, but, we lost our son to suicide a couple of years ago. And relationships matter, because what you put into your department and your men and women, when you need them, they will show up 10 times as much. And they have in this department, through our son's suicide, through the cancer. I mean, some of the things that they've done are just amazing. And we've transitioned out of paramilitary. It's still there on the emergency scene, and it has to be. But we are a relationship-based organization now. And if people haven't realized that, they're missing the boat. And so relationships matter.
I just recently read an article featured on Fire Rescue One, and it was about a volunteer and combination fire department that changed their philosophy, Chief, to be more accepting, to be less restrictive, and more people focused. And oftentimes you'll hear me introduce myself as the people chief of Laramie County Fire Authority, because really that's what I do, right? As I lead people, motivate people to serve our community, which is people. We do that through really cool equipment, right? Fire trucks and cool gear and great mustaches. but really, our job as leaders is the relationship with the people, right? Yep. And I think you nailed it. We need a little bit of that discipline piece for the paramilitary side on the fire ground, for span of control and orders and all those things. But our ability to embrace people as individuals that serve in our organizations, that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's where leadership occurs instead of just management.
I agree. And one other piece of advice for them, and none of us want to admit it, but if we walk out the door today, they'll still get it done. So make sure that the people below you are ready, so they don't have to take a pause to do a little bit of catch up. They'll still, like I said, they'll still serve the community well, but get them ready, man. Spend the time, back to relationships really, but spend the time. I think you've met my deputy chief, Tim Robinson. He's absolutely amazing. And I put the time into mentoring him. And quite honestly, a part of me that's excited about retirement is to see where he takes this organization, because he's ready.
That's an interesting, I'm in the same boat. And, I heard a statement or read a statement years ago that said, when you blur the lines and so nobody can identify truly who's in charge because they're all doing great work, that's when you have a team working in one direction. And, I think I look at yours, some days in my organization, because we've empowered them so much, that some days you're like, what am I supposed to be doing? Right. But really what we're doing is just providing them the guidance and that mentorship to grow. And truthfully, when we do step out of the way, they take those projects further than we ever dreamed possible. And the same thing will happen as we retire out, is the next generation, the next layer will take our organizations further than we ever thought possible.
Yeah, I love that. Somebody once told me a long time ago, without the fire chief, they'll still get it done, right? They may be a little bit scattered, but they'll get it done. But without them, we don't have a job. And I've really tried to remember that. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you in check to think that way.
Yeah, I think it's important because, bringing back the humility in the fire service, right? The humble servant to our community that we provide, it starts at the top. And if we think we're so full of ourselves that we can't learn something, we can't be coached, we can't develop, it transpires down to the rookie that also feels that way and becomes uncoachable. And, then you don't have a team, then you have a bunch of individuals that are just ego-seeking environment that it's just not healthy for anybody.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. A couple more little hot questions for you as we move into 2026 and the future. How do you apply your experience now as the IAFC Fire Chief of the Year? How do you apply your now president of Western Fire Chiefs Association? How do you apply that to stay grounded in your organization? Because as you know, when you do spend more time outside your organization with Western Fire Chiefs or different events that you have to go to, you do lose some connectivity. So what are you doing to maintain that connectivity to your troops as you move into 2026?
So my big goal is not to be behind my computer when I'm here, to be out, to be present. For a long time here, I do a platoon meeting. I'm small enough I can do it every Wednesday. And whether I'm here or on the road, that's going to be a priority of mine to at least be a face on a computer. But more than anything is when I'm here to not get stuck behind my computer doing chief computer things, but to be out and be present and know that they're still my priority. And really, I talk to them a lot about what I'm doing at the state level and at Western Chiefs and things like that, and how I'm going to bring those things back here. My department has been a little bit resistant to technology changes, but the conversations are getting easier and a little better. And so I think I can bring those pieces in and get them excited for the work that I'm doing because it benefits them.
A little bit of trust developed there too now, right? So, whether or not they come up and compliment you on the award, they will, but there's a little bit of trust that's now associated with you in their mind to say, hey, maybe we can give him a little bit more rope because look at this guy. He's doing it all over the place. We trust him now to do it here also.
Yeah, I like that. I never really thought about that, but that's perfect. Yeah.
Trust is a big one, right? Chief, is there anything else you want to dive into before we start wrapping it up?
I don't think so. We've covered a lot. We started rodeoing in college all the way to this last year in Florida. And it's been a really great interview. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, we sure appreciate it. And you are absolutely well-deserving of Fire Chief of the Year through the IAFC. And I really, really love your story. And, my heart is with you guys in all that you're going through and have gone through. And I think it's a lesson to us that you demonstrate that you learned in rodeo, which is you just don't give up, right? You just keep going forward. And I think that's a lesson for all of our listeners today is that, hey, things sometimes stink. They're just horrible. And you wouldn't wish upon your worst enemy these events, but you're grateful that they're your events so that you can demonstrate how to keep moving forward. And my story,
Yes,
and that's what I had to do too. Is you know what, you get up, you brush your pants off, and you go to work, and you work hard to move through the challenges that are placed in front of you. And you're a prime example of it. And I think it's great for our all generations, but all of our firefighters to hear that not everything is rosy. And sometimes we just gotta cry a little bit. We gotta shed some tears. We gotta find those relationships and we just move on.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I would just add, that's perfect. But I would add one thing to that. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset, but you get to choose your attitude or your mindset or your attitude. And I choose to have a positive attitude. Like I said, don't get me wrong. I have my days, but overriding, I choose to have a positive attitude, and it's huge. It goes so far.
It is, Chief. And I think that's a leadership lesson right there in itself, not only on those emotional events, but just everyday life. It's easy to find the negatives about what everybody else is doing wrong, right?
Yep.
The question is, how do you find the positives? How do you reinforce that and start there, reinforcing what they do right, and then work on coaching and improving what they do wrong? And oftentimes you'll hear leaders say, oh, that person's an idiot, or that person did this, or that. Nah, you know what? That person's great. We're just not giving them the right tools, or they're not in the right position to be successful. And it's our job as leaders to coach them or to move them to the right position so that they can be successful in our systems too.
Yep, I love that. And we could do a whole other 45 minutes on this, but one tip for the listeners. So as a fire chief, oftentimes you go into meetings, your ops meeting, your command staff meeting, and you talk about this apparatus is broke down, this issue isn't happening, blah, blah. About 5 years ago, I just said, okay, enough. I'm feeling deflated after these meetings. So the last thing we do at every meeting is I pick one of my shift battalion chiefs or somebody in the room, and I say, you tell me something great that happened in our department in the last 24 hours. And that's how we end our meetings now, is what just happened that was great. So we leave on a positive note, and it's made a big difference.
Yeah, we can spiral into the negative hole better than anybody as a fire service, right? It starts around the kitchen table.
Yeah.
We create things. If there aren't things wrong, we create them because that's easy. It's harder to find and point out the good stuff. And I love it, Chief. I love that. I'm going to steal that idea about our stuff about sharing one positive. I'll give you an example. We track our volunteer each month, and 1 month I had the division chief that supervises that during our board of directors meetings say we only had 1,600 hours of volunteer hours this month, and I was fired up inside. I'm like, only 1,600 hours? No, we had 1,600 hours of volunteer hours. The moment we lose sight of what our people do and only focus on what we wish they did, we're not leading anymore, right? We're not going to be a successful team. So I think that ability to find the positive is important, and to celebrate those wins when you get them is important. 2025 has been a challenging year for a lot of our country and a lot of our firefighters and a lot of our fire departments. More so than ever, we got to find those little wins and celebrate them to give us the energy to keep driving on as we embrace new challenges in the future.
Yeah, and our younger generations love that celebration, right?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think we have to do that, and I think the older generations love it too when we highlight them in a email or a video or a poster or recognize that they did something great. I think we all do inside. We want to be told we're doing good work. We got stuff to improve upon, but we need to be told we're doing good work.
Yep, I love it.
Very cool, Chief. I sure appreciate sharing the last 45 minutes or so with you. And you truly are a role model for the fire service, and a role model for the Utah Fire Service, and a role model for cancer survivors and cancer prevention. And the work that you've done is truly outstanding. And love you as a person and as a friend, and just grateful for that. So thank you for being here today with us.
My pleasure, brother. Love you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to our listeners that are going to be able to listen to this. And you can always email us at bettereveryshift@firerescue1.com. And as Zam will be back next week, it was just my honor to be the guest host today. Zam always says, now get out there and learn something, do something, and share something to make you and those around you better every shift. And I think that's the message you gave us today, Chief, is through those relationships. That's how we do it. And for me, it's always about honoring our tradition, but we have to continue to lead change and look towards the future and how we can continue to better serve our firefighters and our community. So with that, Chief, thanks, and wish you all a great shift, and be better on the next one.